ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of colors and remain standing until the retirement of the colors. Post the colors. Presenting the 27 flags of the United States is the Honor America Corps from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Presenting the flags of Spain and Italy are members of the multi-district color corps of the Calvert Province of the Knights of Columbus. Presenting the Columbus Exhibitionary Banner is Joseph Harvey. Posting and retiring of the colors is the Air Force Honor Guard provided by the Military District of Washington. As each country's national anthem is played by the Marine Band, the respective flag will be presented. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Thomas Hogan, Colonel, USA Army, or United States Army, retired, and immediate past president of the National Christopher Columbus Association.
Thank you. Keep your hands over your hearts. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Hold.
Rose James, State Chaplain, District of Columbia, Daughters of the American Revolution, will offer the invocation to open our ceremony this morning, which was written by Barry C. Black, Chaplain, United States Senate.
Let us pray. Eternal God, the center of our joy, on this Columbus Day, we praise you for the unfolding of your providence that has made the crooked places straight. We thank you that in spite of our human frailty and weakness, you have used us for the glory of your name. Lord, you have empowered us to explore new frontiers, to place time in chains, compressing into minutes distances that once took months or years. In all of our tomorrows, give us the courage to venture forth into the unknown, challenging false notions as you continue to guide us with your light. We pray in your sovereign name. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Ms. James. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the dais, on behalf of the National Christopher Columbus Association and the National Park Service, we welcome each of you today to join with us in celebrating the 527th anniversary of the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus. This is the 107th annual ceremony celebrating the achievements of the great navigator and explorer here in Washington. General Washington initiated the celebration of Columbus Day. Following the 400th anniversary celebrating Columbus's achievements, an effort was launched by the Knights of Columbus here in Washington to establish a monument in the nation's capital to the great navigator. The dedication of the monument took place on June 8th, 1912 by President Taft. It was followed by a 3-day celebration that an estimated 115,000 people attended. It is my pleasure to present the president of the National Christopher Columbus Association, who is the sponsor for today's ceremony, James P. McCusker, otherwise known as J.P. McCusker.
Okay, I have to reach up. Distinguished members of the dais, my brothers, sir, knights, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and celebrating with us the greatest navigator of all times, Christopher Columbus. Over 500 years ago, Columbus set sail from Spain and opened this hemisphere to the European knowledge. That's undisputable. What is disputable, however, is what happened after that. I encourage everyone to read history, but to ensure that the history you're reading is true history and not narratives or allegations by those who want to make their narration history. It's important that we understand the real importance of Columbus and what he has accomplished. Now, having said that, I want everyone to enjoy today. It's a beautiful day. Enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day. And in conclusion, I'll say this, that the National Christopher Columbus Association supports the Indigenous Citizens Day. However, not at the expense of Columbus Day. So again, thank you. I appreciate your time, your patience. God bless our troops. God bless these, the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. McCusker. Representing the National Park Service is Allie Baltras, who is the Acting Chief of Interpretation and Education. We welcome her remarks.
Good morning, distinguished guests. Also, ladies and gentlemen. So I am Allie Baltras, Acting Chief of Interpretation and Education at the National Mall and Memorial Parks. Thank you. I'm honored to have been invited to share this platform with the Diplomatic Corps. On behalf of the National Park Service, I welcome all of you to the Columbus Fountain. Dedicated in 1912, this memorial to Christopher Columbus has been the focal point of Columbus Day observances in the city ever since. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this year's program. As a unit of the National Park System, the Columbus Memorial is part of a network of 419 national parks. These sites preserve America's majestic places, such as the Grand Canyon. And they also remind us of the people, places, and pivotal events that have defined us as a nation. One such place, Salt River Point, also known as Columbus Landing, is part of Salt River Bay National Historic Park and Ecological Preserve on St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Members of Columbus's second voyage landed there on November 14th, 1493, and it is one of two documented sites within U.S. territories where a Columbus expedition made landfall. I would just like to take a few moments to recognize some of the organizations and people who have made today's event possible. First, the members of the Diplomatic Corps, representing embassies of Spain and Italy. Thank you for being here. We are honored to be in your presence. The National Park Service thanks the Knights of Columbus for their long-time support of making this possible. At the dedication of this memorial in 1912, some 50,000 members of the Knights participated in the ceremonies. While there might not be quite as many of them with us today, their support is no less strong. We also wish to recognize the National Columbus Celebration Association and its president, James McCusker, for their work in coordinating this event. And as always, we're appreciative of the support by the U.S. military. The United States Marine Band, who were part of the dedication ceremonies in 1912, and continue the affiliation with this memorial on this morning. Thank you for your participation. And to all of those in the audience, some who might have just happened by, but you've chosen to spend a part of your day with us today, I want to say welcome and thank you for your attendance and your participation in today's ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baltras. Representing the country that gave the world Christopher Columbus, I am honored to present His Excellency Armando Varricchio, the Ambassador of Italy to the United States. We welcome his remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm delighted to be here with you today and to participate such a beautiful day in the Columbus Day celebration in Washington, D.C., together with the fellow members of the days, Mr. James McCusker, my good friend, Ambassador Santiago Cabanas, representative of the National Park Service, Honorable Anita McBride, good friend, now Vice Chair for Cultural Affairs, Mrs. Colleen Hogan, representative of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and the representatives of the Knights of Columbus and other Italian American organizations. Today we are all here to commemorate and reflect on the meaning of Cristoforo Colombo's journey in 1492 and its enormous influence on world history. And I think that it is particularly important today in the aftermath of the decision taken by the nation's capital about the meaning of the Columbus Day holiday. We are mindful of the historical implications of the European arrival in the Americas and the severe impact on indigenous people, whose suffering cannot and must not be forgotten. But I do think that such a decision misses the point. The very meaning of Christopher Columbus arriving into the shore was to unite what was divided, was to bring Europe and this shore together. In the end, Christopher Columbus opened up the world to exchanges, flows of ideas, commerce, and made the world that we know today. So his place in history cannot be forgotten. For us, Columbus Day is a holiday envisioned as part of the merging understanding of pluralism in the 20th century, something that continued to evolve, and it is a symbol of the successful integration of the great Italian-American community. It has been reminded since 1937, this national holiday has paid tribute to the journey, the hardship, and the ultimate success of people of Italian descent in the United States of America. And in this sense, the historical figure of Christopher Columbus symbolized the courage, determination, and commitment which distinguish to this day our communities across the United States of America. It is through their perseverance, unwavering dedication, and sheer hard work that Italians have gave a tremendous contribution to the success of this country and have become an integral part of their new chosen homeland. Today, Italian Americans continue to provide invaluable support to the social life, progress, and history of this great nation. We are extremely proud of our fellow citizens for their contribution to this great country and for being proud Americans while appreciating and maintaining strong ties with their ancestral origins and history. And this is in the same way that the Italian-American community created a bridge between their country and origins and their new homeland. Columbus Day celebrates the shared values and friendship between our two nations and people, as also recognized by the President of the United States in his Columbus Day proclamation. Our priority for the future is to encourage the exchange of people and ideas between our two countries, especially through younger generations. So pleased to see young generations here today, and bring together the best of our respective nations in all fields, from art to technology, from culture and of course to industry. And no better testimony of such a bond is the incoming visit of our president, the President of the Republic of Italy, who will be here this week, and his very presence in Washington as of tomorrow, visiting with the President of the United States, wants to celebrate the meaning of these special days for our communities. This will be President Mattarellas' second official visit to the United States, underscoring the strength and depth of our bonds and the excellent state of our relations. Ladies and gentlemen, Italian identity is strong and manifest in all aspects of daily life of this wonderful country. But I see that no better sign is what we see in front of us. And the link connecting Christopher Columbus to Capitol Hill wants to demonstrate the importance of our attachment to the symbols of American democracy. The dome, designed by Costantino Brumidi, is a majestic piece of art that has inscripted the meaning of the very motto of American nation, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. This means that all communities have to work together and have to be considered citizens of this great country, a great experience that we so love and so respect. America instilled in all its communities a sense of unity and belonging, based on the recognition of labor, tireless commitment, and promotion of social advancements. This is particularly true for my fellow Italians, whose ancestors provided and continue to provide an invaluable contribution to this country. To them, to you, to all of us, and of course to all our American friends, let me extend a simple but heartfelt grazie. Buon Colombo giorno a tutti. Grazie.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Accompanying the ambassador are Counselor Domenico Bellatone, Captain Gianfranco Vazzini of the Italian Naval Attaché to the United States of America, and Marcello Gianluca Bianchini. Representing the country that gave Columbus the resources to fulfill his vision, I'm honored to present His Excellency Santiago Cabanas, the Ambassador of Spain to the United States, for his remarks.
Good morning to all of you. Buenos dias, buongiorno. Mr. James McCusker, President of the National Christopher Columbus Association, Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Italy, my dear friend Armando Varicchio, the representatives of the National Park Service and the Daughters of the American Revolution, the National Italian American Foundation, representatives of the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marines Band. Thank you very much for your excellent music today. Admiral Poole, Defense Attaché of the Spanish Embassy, and representatives of the Spanish and the Italian embassies, and dear friends, all of you, of Christopher Columbus. As Ambassador of Spain to the US, I'm honored to be here today to commemorate Columbus Day, a day in which the US, Spain, Italy, and most of Latin American countries come together to celebrate how Columbus first arrived to an island called Guanahani, resulted in the encounter of two worlds that had enormous consequences in history. It marked the beginning of a new era for two continents, Europe and America, and for their peoples. Be it Columbus Day in the US, Day of the Hispanidad in Colombia, Guatemala, or Spain, Día de la Raza in Panama or El Salvador, the Day of the Encounter of the Two Worlds in Chile or Peru, the Day of Respect of Cultural Diversity in Argentina, we all commemorate on this significant date the new cultural identity emerged from this fusion of the two worlds, as well as the common heritage forged between Spain and the Americas ever since. We cannot understand Spain without the Americans. We cannot understand either the Americas without Spain. And this common heritage allows us to look hand in hand towards the future with determination and confidence. Today, Spain, the EU, and the US are vibrant, stable, established democracies, diverse and strong, based on the rule of law and the respect of human rights. And this is the foundation of a permanent friendship and future. More than 5 centuries ago, we can acknowledge now the richness of this fusion with special emphasis on the United States, where Hispanics have gained great relevance in politics, economy, or culture. Almost 20% of the US population is Hispanic. More than 57 million people speak Spanish. We are proud to be part of our shared values and our common history. While celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month, it's also worth mentioning the role that Spaniards and Hispanics had in the formation of this country, with courageous explorers such as Ponce de Leon in Florida, Juan de Oñate in New Mexico and Texas, and missionaries such as Fray Junípero Serra in California. They were also crucial in the subsequent development of the country through the great support that was given to the former colonies in their process of gaining independence. Characters such as Bernardo de Galvez, the hero of Pensacola, played a very important role in the history of this country. This year, we're also commemorating the quincentennial, the 5th century of the first circumnavigation of the Earth by Ferdinand Magellan of Juan Sebastián del Cano, an expedition also carried out by the Spanish crown and, because of its tremendous impact, is considered the first globalization of the world. I would like now to thank the National Christopher Columbus Associations as organizing of this event for their efforts in preserving Christopher Columbus' legacy. As the ambassador of Italy has said, the aim of Christopher Columbus, the aim of the Spanish crown, was to unite, not to divide, and anything else really misses the point. Columbus should be honored for what he represents, a man whose vision changed the shape of the world. And we do so before a monument that is also a tribute to the tradition of freedom and the rule of law, and a testament of the historic links between Europe and the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Accompanying the ambassador is Fernando Poole, Admiral Defense Attaché. The proclamation issued by the President of the United States for Columbus Day will be presented by Mr. Francesco Isgro, President of Casa Italiana Socio-Cultural Center.
Presidential Proclamation on Columbus Day 2019, issued on October 11, 2019. On October 12, 1492, after a perilous 2-month journey across the treacherous Atlantic Ocean, Christopher Columbus and his crew, aboard the Niña, Pinta, and Santa Maria, landed in what is today the Bahamas. The watershed voyage, ushering the age of exploration, changing the course of history, and setting the foundation for development of our nation. Today, we commemorate this great explorer whose courage, skill, and drive for discovery are at the core of the American spirit. While Columbus sailed from the port of Palos under the Spanish flag, he took pride in the fact that he was a citizen of Genova, Italy. The celebration of Columbus Day is therefore an appropriate opportunity to recognize the more than 16 million Americans who claim Italian heritage and to carry forth the legacy of generations of Italian Americans who have helped shape our nation. The United States greatly values its close bond with Italy, a long-standing friend, ally, and economic partner. Our relationship, built on shared values and commitment to furthering peace and prosperity, continues to benefit both of our nations. Columbus' daring voyage to the New World brought 2 continents together, enabling a global perspective for the first time. The bold legacy of Columbus and his crew spun a thread that weaves through the extensive history of Americans who have pushed the boundaries of explorations. On Columbus Day, we draw inspiration from this intrepid pioneer spirit of adventure. We also affirm our commitment to continuing our quest to discover and better understand the wonders of our nation, the world, and beyond. In commemoration of Christopher Columbus' historic voyage, the Congress, by joint resolution of April 30, 1934, has requested the President to proclaim second Monday of October of each year as Columbus Day. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim October 14, 2019 as Columbus Day. I call upon the people of the United States to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities. I also direct that the flag of the United States be displayed on all public buildings on the appointed day in honor of our diverse history and all who have contributed to shaping this nation. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand this 11th day of October in the year of our Lord, 2019, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 244th. Signed, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, Mr. Isgro. The proclamation issued by the Mayor of the District of Columbia, will now be presented by Mr. Chris Pierno, NCCA Board Member and State Secretary, District of Columbia, Knights of Columbus.
Proclamation, Columbus Day, October 14th, 2019. Whereas, since 1970, Columbus Day is celebrated on the second Monday every October, and today marks the 527th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's expedition to the West. And whereas, in 1492, Christopher Columbus began his journey from Spain as an explorer and navigator with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, which marked the beginning of exploration and colonization of North and South America. And whereas, in 1912, the Columbus Fountain was created as the centerpiece at Columbus Circle, located at Union Station, to recognize and honor the contributions and achievements of Christopher Columbus and to welcome visitors to our city. And whereas, in 1934, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt issued the first Columbus Day Proclamation. And whereas, this annual event is hosted by the National Christopher Columbus Association in coordination with the National Park Service at Columbus Circle, which is also known as Columbus Plaza, at Union Station, to celebrate Columbus Day in Washington, D.C. Now, therefore, I, the Mayor of Washington, D.C., do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2019, in Washington, D.C., as Columbus Day. Muriel Bowser, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pierno. Now more than ever, it is so important that our youth be groomed in leadership, groomed in leading this great country to bright and prosperous future. However, in that challenge and grooming, they must understand the past in order to create a better future. So it is that over 4,000 students across this country, and some from foreign countries, have participated in this year's National Youth Essay Contest. This year's theme is comparing ship technology, the ships Columbus used versus the ships of today. We are deeply indebted to the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, comprising of over 100 volunteers in administering the essay contest. With us today representing the President General of the Daughters of the American Revolution is Ms. Colleen Hogan, National Vice Chairman, American History, Eastern Division. Thank you for coming, and we appreciate the Daughters and all they do to support Columbus, the NCCA, and especially the contest. We also wish to thank the National Italian American Foundation for providing the financial award of $1,200, $500, and $300 to the first, second, and third place winners, respectively. They also provide travel expense for the first place winner to attend this celebration. And representing the National Italian American Foundation is Anita Bavacqua McBride, and if you would please rise and be recognized. Miss Margaret Hartigan comes to us from Grosse Pointe Woods, Michigan. She is currently a senior at University Liggett School. Miss Hartigan is a competitive Irish dancer with Arden Academy and has competed at local, national, and international levels. She is an avid runner and is captain of both the cross-country and track teams at Liggett. Miss Hardigan loves writing and language, which is why her favorite subjects include English, Spanish, and history. Miss Hardigan is sponsored by Louisa St. Clair Chapter. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I present Miss Margaret Hardigan with her presentation of comparing ship technology, the ships Columbus used versus the ships of today.
Christopher Columbus's first voyage to the Americas in 1492 took place on three major ships: the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The former two being small, quick, easily maneuvered ships called caravels, and the latter being Columbus's larger league flagship called a carrack or now. As one can assume, these three ships were far less advanced than the ships of today and possessed fewer navigational technologies, making the job of navigator on said ships, which in this case was Christopher Columbus's, an extremely demanding role. However, it helped the late 15th century explorer that the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria were some of the most highly advanced vessels of their time, created specifically for the various tasks of the expedition. Similarly, seafaring vessels designed for exploration today are equipped with the latest technology and are deliberately tailored for completing defined tasks. Columbus's ships were constructed with specific roles for the journey. The caravels, smaller ships, were built for exploration. They could navigate better, were faster, and were more efficient than the Santa Maria, which was created mostly for cargo and space for additional materials to be brought to and from the land they explored. This specialization of ships could easily be compared to the remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, of today. For example, in 1967, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration constructed the exploration vessel Nautilus, which contains two ROVs on board, the Hercules and the Argus. Like the Nina and Pinta, these smaller structures are designed to be quicker and more easily navigable than their larger counterparts. However, unlike the Nina and Pinta, these ROVs do not have a crew on board, and they are far smaller than Columbus's caravels were, with the ROVs being 11 feet and 23 feet, and the Nina and Pinta each being approximately 75 feet. In Columbus's situation, having access to the technology of remotely operated vehicles likely would have enabled him to more thoroughly explore the area he was discovering and more efficiently navigate the Atlantic. During his journey, Columbus used a technique called dead reckoning to navigate to the Americas. The process of dead reckoning uses tools such as a compass to find the ship's speed and direction, and then mark these quantities on a map to discover where the ship is going. This process, while effective for many explorers and sailors of the time, is now archaic and outdated. If Columbus had had access to the ships of today, he would have discovered that global positioning systems are common and effective tools for safely navigating. Modern-day GPS and navigational technologies would have allowed Columbus to know not only his direction and speed, but also his location and destination. With access to GPS, Christopher Columbus likely would have been able to more accurately and safely locate his direction and arrive at his desired destination far more quickly. The primary purpose of the 1492 voyage of Christopher Columbus, his 90-person crew, and his three ships was not to discover the Americas, but to explore a new route to known lands. Today, because technology is able to identify the most efficient routes and major land masses have been thoroughly studied, the mission of exploratory ships and vessels are now more often for underwater exploration and research. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the vast majority of the world's oceans have not been discovered or mapped out, just like how in the late 15th century, much of the land on Earth had not been mapped out. Instead of caravels and carracks, present-day exploratory voyages take place on human-operated submarines, like the Alvin, capable of exploring areas nearly 3 miles below the ocean's surface. Like the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, this vessel also requires a large crew to maintain, guide, and control it, and is used primarily for exploration as opposed to recreation or biological research. The size of ships has also drastically changed since Columbus went on his expedition to the Caribbean. The Santa Maria was a carrack, or now, and measured roughly 117 feet long, while the Pinta and Nina were caravels and about 75 feet long. When one compares these ships to the exploration ship Nautilus, which is 211 feet long, it is clear that the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria were much smaller and more compact. As they were smaller, Columbus's ships could therefore hold much less cargo than the average exploration vessel of the modern day. It is worth mentioning, however, that they also likely required fewer materials than the larger ships of today. Hence, not only has the quantity of fuel and technology required by ships increased immensely with the progress of society, but the physical size of these vessels has as well. While there are countless ways in which the ships of modern today can be argued to be superior to Columbus's ships, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria were still among the most advanced ships of the 15th century. According to the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, they were, quote, designed and engineered to be sturdier than any other ships of the day, end quote, and used a sailing structural technique called lateen rigging, in which a specific type of sail was connected to a pole which made the ship's direction more constant and easier to guide. This made the vessels highly sophisticated for their time and therefore more beneficial to providing Columbus with a successful journey. Today's ships often require a vast amount of fuel, oil, and other materials to travel. According to research from the University of Colorado Boulder, a large cruise ship uses more than 80,000 gallons of gasoline per day on average, an enormous quantity. While Columbus's ships were much smaller and therefore did not require quite so much fuel, this shows the incredible amount of resources required to use a modern ship, as opposed to the Nina, Pinta, or Santa Maria, which require only wind power. As Columbus's ships relied solely on renewable, free resources, his ships were more environmentally friendly, cost-efficient, and more widely functional in terms of fuel use, making them extremely practical for his long, arduous expeditions. Like almost any other field of scientific or social discovery, ship technology and sailing strategies have all changed much since Columbus's time. The specialization of vessels, methods of navigation, areas of exploration, ways of movement, and size have all evolved dramatically in the past half millennium and very likely will continue to evolve throughout the coming half. It is clear that even though the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria were some of the greatest vessels of their time, the technology of ships of today far outperformed the ships of the 15th century. The purpose of the construction and implementation of these vessels, however, remains largely the same: to perform tasks that are highly specialized for the types of exploratory expeditions they are commissioned for. I'd like to thank my teachers and my parents, as well as the Daughters of the American Revolution, National Italian American Association, and the National Christopher Columbus Association for honoring me with this award and for all of their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret, and congratulations on being our essay winner this year and for being here with us. And joining Margaret with us today is her father, Mr. David Hartigan, and her mother, Miss Ginny Hartigan. Please stand and be proud parents. Margaret, on behalf of the NCCA, it is our pleasure to declare you an honorary member of the NCCA for 2019, and with it comes a certificate and pin. I now request the National Vice Chairman, American History, Eastern Division, Ms. Colleen Hogan of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, to come to the podium for their presentation.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution and our President General, Denise Doring Van Buren, I am pleased to be here today to present the first place national winner of the 2019 Christopher Columbus Essay Contest to Margaret Hardigan.
I now request the Vice Chair of Cultural Affairs, Anita Bavacqua McBride, representing the National Italian American Foundation, to come to the podium for their presentation.
Good morning, and thank you very much for your kind introduction, Steve. I appreciate that, and appreciate all that you do, and JP for all that they do with the Christopher Columbus Association. I also would like to extend my greetings to Ambassador Cabanas and Ambassador Vericchio. Both of your remarks this morning were so wonderful and really touched on that spirit of unity that all of us should be reflecting on today. And also thank you, Ali Bolches from the National Park Service. And we are so proud and honored that of the 419 national park sites in this country, that this is one of them. And thank you to Colleen for presenting the, from the Daughters of the American Revolution, presenting the award to Margaret. On behalf of the National Italian American Foundation, it's an honor for me to represent our foundation and join these distinguished guests here on the stage. And all of you that have gathered in this location today on this beautiful day, as we have gathered for many years because of the emotional connection we have to Christopher Columbus and the transformational impact he had on the history of the world. We recognize a remarkable vision of exploration that served as the catalyst for more than 500 years of immigration by people from every corner of the earth to the Americas. Now more than ever, it is important that we commemorate this day in the spirit of an increasingly diverse America. But Columbus Day is not just the celebration of one voyage. It is the celebration of all of the brave immigrants that risked their lives on their pursuit for a better life, in turn creating the unique, that's worthy of applause. In turn, creating the unique mixture of cultures that make up our society today. The Italian American community is the 5th largest ethnic group in the United States, numbering nearly 20 million people. Like all immigrants, early generations of Italian immigrants to America were often maligned as subhuman and subjected to widespread bigotry before they were accepted into society. This acceptance did not happen overnight. Through hard work, a deep faith, and a determination to thrive in the American culture, they ultimately made and continue to make remarkable contributions to the new world that Columbus helped to discover. For those Italian immigrants and their descendants, like me, Columbus was the figure who gave them courage to overcome the discrimination and break down the walls of anti-Italianism. The audacity of his vision to make a perilous journey in the face of enormous obstacles embodies the spirit of perseverance and resilience. These are characteristics that we should recognize and celebrate as integral to having made contributions so widespread that they have advanced the United States in the fields of politics, science, business, law, medicine, the arts, sports, and more. In recent years, in the debate over greater sensitivity to a more inclusive recounting of history, communities around the country, including right here in the District of Columbia, have sought to exclude Columbus Day and replace it. In this era of greater sensitivity to diversity and inclusion, why would we exclude or seek to erase the profoundly significant example of Columbus? Doing so not only disrespects the Italian American community and its legacy in the United States, but it belittles the struggles that our ancestors endured. NIAF supports both Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. However, we believe that the vote to replace Columbus Day is a false choice. The decision to replace one celebration with another is culturally insensitive, divisive, and is an injustice to both cultures' legacy. All ethnicities, Indigenous peoples included, deserve a day of their own to celebrate their past, their culture, their contributions, and yes, their suffering. At the National Italian American Foundation, it is central to our mission to preserve and protect our heritage. We are committed to providing Italian American youth with possibilities to connect with their culture and heritage, embrace lifelong learning, and become good citizens and leaders in our democratic society. It is our privilege and goal as the community most closely associated with the legacy of Christopher Columbus to carry out that mission in an environment of mutual respect and understanding for discussion of important issues and diverse points of view. But we know all individuals, especially those whose legacies will belong to the court of public opinion, they will be flawed. Their monuments represent a snapshot of our national history, to be put in a contemporary perspective, but not to be erased. We are proud that our foundation helps foster dialogue and thoughtful discussion when reimagining historical figures in a new light and tell their story, in fact, all of our stories, in innovative and thoughtful ways. To this end, we are particularly pleased to support this student essay contest in the name of productive in discourse. Congratulations to you, Margaret. You taught us a lot today. Your winning essay encouraged us to consider our history with a greater and fuller context. So let me, in closing, just say thank you for all of you for being here on this beautiful day, for continuing the tradition of commemorating Christopher Columbus and what he has meant to uniting peoples across the ocean. God bless all of you. Happy Columbus Day.
I now request the president of the National Christopher Columbus Association, Mr. J.P. McCusker, to come to the podium for his presentation.
It's my distinct honor to invite Margaret up again, please, and present to you a plaque, along with the membership for a year, honorary membership. We present you a plaque. It's the National Christopher Columbus Association, the Dr. David R. Kirkman Award, presented to Margaret on behalf of a great essay. And thank you all for coming. We'll have some Reed's presentation. I'll turn it back over to the MC.
The 2019-2020 essay contest is entitled Christopher Columbus, First Expedition Set Off in August of 1492. He and his men explored the Caribbean for 5 months after arriving there in October. Imagine you are a sailor who accompanied Christopher Columbus on this voyage and now have returned to Spain. Describe your impression of Christopher Columbus and perception of the purpose of the expedition. Talk about your experience on the voyage, detailing the places and people that you encountered and what you see as the significance of the discoveries made. And the details on the contest can be found on page 8 of your program book. I now invite the wreath presenters to go to their respective wreaths. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy the United States Marine Band, the President's Own, a musical interlude, America the Beautiful, as arranged by Master Sergeant Stephen Bola, U.S. Marine Band, and featuring Marine vocalist Gunny Sergeant Sarah Sheffield.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet who stood in passion stressed, a thoroughfare for freedom beat across the wilderness. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Inspired by the architectural beauty of the Columbian Exposition in Chicago at the 1893 celebrating the 400th anniversary of landfall by Columbus and a visit to Pikes Peak by Catherine Bates. Her inspiration found its way into this beautiful song that was performed for the first time on July 4th, 1895. Let us stand and, never mind, went too far. We will now be going with the wreath presentations. National Christopher Columbus Association, Tom Hogan, immediate past president. National Park Service, U.S. Department of Interior, Ali Baltras. Embassy of Italy, Armando Varricchio, Ambassador of Italy to the United States. Embassy of Spain, Santiago Cabanas, Ambassador of Spain to the United States. National Italian American Foundation, Anita McBride and Julia Streisfeld. National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, Colleen Hogan, National Vice Chairman, American History, Eastern Division. Supreme Council Knights of Columbus, Michael Thumb, Vice Supreme Master, Calvert Province. Lido Civic Club of Washington, D.C., Vincenzo Fragamini, President. District of Columbia, State Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, Cindy Hayes, State Vice Regent. Maryland State Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, Patricia McClay, State Historian. Virginia State Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, Lori Nesbitt, State Vice Regent. District of Columbia State Council, Knights of Columbus, Brandon Brown, State Deputy. Maryland State Council, Knights of Columbus, Dale Trott, State Deputy, Vince Grasso, State Secretary. Virginia State Council, Knights of Columbus, Bob Szerzinski, State Deputy. Washington Council number 224, Knights of Columbus, Drew Gorman, past Grand Knight, Henry Rakowski Jr., Trustee. Roma Lodge 71, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, Nina Baccanari, President. George Washington Lodge 20308, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, Kathy Drummond, President. International Lodge 2522, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, Mello Cicala, President. National Council for the Promotion of Italian Language and Culture in the United States, Dr. Daniel Stabile, President, accompanied by Bishop O'Connell High School Italian American Club, Alessandra Del Dona, President, Patrick Wilcox, and Clara Gonzalez. National Society Daughters of the American Colonist, Mary Armstrong, National President. National Society Children of the American Colonist, Annalise Morning, National President. National Society Children of the American Revolution, Norma Griffin, Senior National President, Madeline Herring, Virginia State President. District of Columbia, Children of the American Revolution, Sarah Nordlinger, State President, Catherine Orta, Senior State President. National Society Children of 1812, Lynn Marshall, Senior President General. Archdiocese of Washington Catholic Committee on Scouting, Richard Stevick, Doris Stevick, Benjamin Stevick, Lake Coordinator. I'll read this again. Inspired by the architectural beauty of the Columbian Exposition in Chicago at the 1893 celebrating the 400th anniversary of landfall by Columbus and a visit to Pikes Peak by Catherine Bates, her inspiration found its way into this beautiful song that was performed for the first time on July 4th, 1895. Let us stand and sing her inspiration, God Bless America.
God bless America, and that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, thy home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
On behalf of the National Christopher Columbus Association, we would like to recognize two gentlemen who were instrumental in the formation and development of the NCCA who left us this past year. Dr. Edward Sullivan was a founding member, officer, and board member of the NCCA And as a tribute to Dr. Sullivan, we have rerun his final feature article in this year's program. Last month, we lost Peter Davio, Vice President of the National Christopher Columbus Association, who was a vital member of the board of directors and served as your master of ceremonies last year. More information on these two gentlemen can be found on pages 17 and 18 in your program. A heartfelt thanks to the fine musicians and vocalists in the Marine Band. Your contribution to the beauty of this celebration is outstanding. Our thanks to the 4th degree of the Knights of Columbus, including the Honor America Corps. The presentation of the flag still generate a feeling of pride that overwhelms us, and you also add a splendor to our celebration. And to all who contributed so much to this celebration, thank you. And to you who came out to join in this celebration, thank you as well. Let us never forget the great contribution that Columbus, the navigator and explorer, gave to our world. Please join us next year on Columbus Day for ceremony right here in front of this statue. I will say thank you and have a great day, but please remain in your place. Color Corps, retire the colors.